Hello and good morning. Thank you for joining me for the Data-Centric AI Forum. Today we have a lot of very interesting, very special programming in store for you. A lot of it will be educational, and we're going to discuss a lot of the nuances with managing modern data systems, modern data infrastructure. Um, Let me move on with my presentation. So this is the introduction to the Data-Centric AI Forum. My name is Joaquin Melada. Originally, I'm from El Salvador. I have been based out of New Jersey for the last 2 decades. I've worked as a technical project manager, as a technical consultant. Uh, I've done some stuff in branding, marketing, event management. Last November, I founded the Swarm community and I started hosting the AI Digest podcast. And currently, I'm building a brokerage of ideas. So if you'd like to get in contact with me, my LinkedIn is super accessible. You will see me everywhere in the Swarm community. Um, on with the programming. So today, I'm gonna give a very high level view of the conceptual ideas that I have over this theme. We have first, we're gonna discuss the data pyramid, or as other people like to call it, the DIKW pyramid. The Tower of Babylon, a federation of tribes, putting the pieces of the puzzle back together, kintsugi, shapes and structural integrity, architecture, and city planning. So, my objective in this presentation is to take you through the innermost baseline ideas and build on that so that when we enter into presentations by people that are industry practitioners that have been doing this for a couple of decades, there's going to be some primer for it to stick to you better. If at any point you have any questions, feel free to post it in the comments, and I'll get to it as I go down the presentation. And yeah, let's get on with it. So this is the DIKW pyramid, and the idea here is that there are layers of stuff, starting with data being the most abstract idea. It's sort of symbols and numbers and things that don't have any context. But as you add context to a particular scenario, you can start creating more meaningful pieces of information, which then becomes knowledge, which then becomes wisdom. Um, as it stands now, as it stands today, for the most part, machines rely heavily on data and information that is human and machine interoperable, or machine to machine interoperable. And people, for the most part, rely on communicating with each other via wisdom and knowledge. What we are trying to achieve and what we have been working on achieving since the development of textile machinery is communication between people and machines in a more expressive manner, in a more in a way to create and offload the work and chores of people for machines to be able to produce better, more repetitive results. So that's the idea of the DIKW pyramid. Um, Now let's talk a little bit about the Tower of Babel. The concept here, and I'm not going to get too far into the cultural significance, but the idea here is that there was a group of people. They all spoke the same language. They all had the same motivations. They all wanted to create a large tower, and it was made possible because there was no obfuscation of ideas. They had a clear idea, a clear message in mind, a clear proposition, and they were able to work towards that without any particular points of friction. Now, the story goes that the Tower of Babel was collapsed because it was not it was not in favor of the of the God, of God, and basically he scattered the Tower of Babel, he broke it apart, and as a result of that, incident, of that event, people were placed all over the world and they spoke different languages, and there was a fragmentation of understanding. So, it's a story, but we're living in a world where we speak different languages. We occupy different geographical locations. We have different motives, different culture, and I think this is a good conceptual example of being fragmented. We live in a federation of tribes. We have these identities called countries, nationalities, whatever you want to call it, and we have different languages as a result. Language evolves over time, so even smaller pockets of people tend to develop in different ways. Their language is shaped according to the things that they see, the things that they do. So we need to have an overhead tax for communicating between people to reach a mutual understanding, and that's the federation of tribes. And this is all just in the context of people to people. We're not even getting to the idea of working with machines, but essentially what we're trying to do in this global economy is put the pieces of the puzzle back together. However, it's not that simple. It's not just pieces that you can dump out on the ground from a box and have a clear image of what you're building. These pieces have been scattered all over the world. It's not clear what the world looks like as a unified whole. There's a lot of questions here. So it's a seemingly difficult task to create this image, this puzzle. Um, you really can't reconstruct what you really don't have a clear idea of what you're building, unless you look at the edges of a puzzle piece and see what other pieces are like it. So that brings me to this idea of kintsugi, and kintsugi is the process of repairing ceramics with lacquer and gold. Um, they smash a piece of ceramic and then they put it back together, piece by piece. So this is sort of the idea behind ontologies and modeling ideas, modeling domains. You model knowledge. Um, we have this problem where we can't communicate with each other because we have different perspectives of the world, different languages, different motivations. But what we can do as a collaborative effort is we can put little fragments of understanding, of meaning together, and have dialogues and have a technical way of expressing this, so we can reach a contractual understanding, a mutual understanding of what is reality, what is a shared understanding of a particular part of the world. And that to me is in line with the concept, the idea of kintsugi. So when you work with a fragmented idea or a fragmented view of the world, you can work with these rough edges, these rough sides of the puzzle. But then there are ways of breaking that down into clean shapes, clean geometric shapes, ideas that can be chunked in regular sizes and things like that. So that's sort of what we need to be gearing towards. We're not just putting together a broken piece of ceramic that is brittle and it explodes over the place and has irregular shapes. We can develop conceptually in our minds a way to rationalize the world through chunks. There are only a certain amount of things in the world that we engage with, live through. There's actors, there are actions, there are events, there are relationships between these things. And these are sort of the conceptual shapes that we can take to start creating an architectural blueprint of the world via the vehicle of our knowledge. And that leads me to talk about knowledge architecture as a discipline. I think for a very long time we've been stuck in this world where not everybody, of course. Academics have been far ahead of their time trying to develop these ideas in the universities, but at least in the layperson's view, we enter a certain world of complexity wherever we practice or craft. We develop a vocabulary and experiences around how to deal with that part of the world. And then we try to reconcile new ideas as we encounter new problems and communicate these with each other and with non practitioners. This is very much akin to the development of architecture as a discipline, where originally it was just a group of carpenters that were developing houses with no overarching view on how to develop a base model for creating a house. People were just slapping pieces of wood together in ways that seemed to work fine. But for the commercialization, the industrialization of constructing homes, we needed to have at some point both standard materials and standard knowledge so that we can create a standard for living. So I see that we're entering into this age where we are undergoing similar patterns, similar trends. There are on there's data that is shaped in a particular way. That is what you can envision a two by four or a nail. And there are ontologies that are standard that people have cultivated through some part of kintsugi, part of coming to a mutual understanding of what the world represents in that particular area of knowledge. So now we have to put these things together, and we have to do so by codifying what it means to be a knowledge architect, codifying what it means to not just develop data infrastructure. I mean, that is a tactical thing. We need to reevaluate the way that we view the world as it comes to knowledge and the relationships between people and machines. And to do that, we need to have discussions like what we're going to have today, where data needs to have a certain geometric shape so that it's easy to transport that between organizations. We need to have these ideas on what are proper housing guidelines or structures so we can communicate with practitioners. Here's a pattern to build a mansion. Here's a pattern to build a housing to store granary surplus. Here's a housing for retail. Here's a housing for industrial production. We need to have these ideas sort of baked in and shared in this space so we can accelerate the adoption of these things. Part of the reason that this hasn't stuck well is because some people have been enamored, sort of, they've been stolen away by the idea that there are these shiny tools and technologies that give you these capabilities. But what we really should be talking about, and what kind of ideas we really should be spreading, is there is a way that we can reach a mutual understanding of the world. And with that mutual understanding of the world, we're going to be able to live better lives by exporting some of our chores to machines. And once we cross that paradigm shift, the way that we view the world, the way we frame our beliefs around how we work together as people with machines to create a better existence for us all, that's when we're going to start seeing leaps in our evolution as a society. At least that is my humble opinion. But as you can see here, there's a number of ideas, and these are just like little fragments of ideas around how to manage knowledge. This is how people started constructing views of a house, of what it means to create a physical object that houses other people. And these are the foundational steps to create that new discipline. And with that in mind, after a certain point, we can zoom out and view the bigger picture. I mean, I think the biggest problem right now is overcoming this idea of data silos. And data silos is you build these rooms in your house that have no freaking doors. You can't you can't engage in your house and travel freely. It wouldn't make any sense to physically construct a house that has no doors or windows. I mean, just reasoning as individuals, that sounds very idiotic. But that's what we're doing in the virtual space and in the data infrastructure space. So we need to be able to take our minds into creating usable houses, usable infrastructure that takes people into consideration. So then we later can talk about how to integrate this into a neighborhood, which is a group of organizations that have data infrastructure that may be compliant with higher level requirements for governance, higher levels of requirements for regulation. It's such a like right now we are battling with ourselves just to create something that allows us to communicate within an organization, within a tribe, but we still struggle even further out to communicate with other organizations, between organizations, and with governance, which is supposed to be a way for us to enhance our ability to collaborate with each other. Um, so yeah, we can't look at city planning until we really get a clear fundamental understanding of what it means to develop knowledge architecture as a discipline. But it is something that we should aspire to work towards, because when we have uh, smart cities and integrated infrastructure and better Internet of Things uh, projects coming into play for agriculture, for water conservation, for air quality monitoring, and things like that, we are going to be living in a more interconnected world, and we should find a way to reconcile all these different perspectives so we can have more meaningful insight into the world and how we can create a better world for us all. Um, so with that, I think I've given a primer on what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm open for any questions you might have. I hope that I'm not encountering any issues with LinkedIn Live. I've been encountering some of them the last couple days, but feel free to leave a comment. I'll be on for a couple minutes. And then the next presentation is going to be on the building intelligent systems with Dr. Chedhana Sidrar. And she's going to give us a roadmap of what it means to what is an intelligent system? How do we develop one? What are the steps that are preventing us from living in our current state to moving to that future ideal state? So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for attending the presentation. And if you'd like to collaborate to create educational content around any of these ideas, further refine the discipline of knowledge architecture, work with open source AI technologies, if you need some counsel to develop or frame a business case, business use case, or if you're looking to develop a new project from scratch and require support with sourcing talent, I'm here for that as well. So, yeah, thanks for coming to the presentation. I'll stay on if there's any questions. Oh, also, there's gonna be like 11. Oh, there we go. This is the weird part with LinkedIn Live. It doesn't allow me to fully understand or see the reactions or comments. But I just opened it up on my phone, and it looks like we have some people here. Yeah, be sure to attend the other presentations. We're gonna have a lot of interesting ideas shared. The the following one, building intelligent systems, is pretty cool, but the one after that is also, to me, it blows my mind. It's creating a large language model that is trained off of Odia. Odia is a Hindu-based language, so that gives me a very positive, a very hopeful view for being able to reconcile fragmented ideas, fragmented languages, fragmented culture that has been lost throughout history. Maybe we can revive Latin and ancient Greek and Mayan dialects. I mean that's a really important piece of work. by Dr. Kusumlata. After that, we have data-centric methods for responsible AI. It's uh, it's really important that we talk about how to be responsible in developing these AI systems. We in ourselves have bias, but more dangerously, we have unconscious bias, or we have things we don't know we have, and if we are the constructors of machines, and machines are a reflection or a shadow of our intent. If we don't have not an unbiased third party to regulate or at least evaluate what we're building, we may unintentionally cause harm to others. So she's going to talk about how to keep an eye on that and be part of be part of an ecosystem that nurtures responsibility in the development of these new AI systems. Um, After that, it's going to be Dr. Giuseppe Futia, and he's going to talk about leveraging synergies, a holistic approach to named entity disambiguation in the biomedical domain through LLMs, ontologies, and knowledge graphs. Giuseppe is really cool. He's been in this space for quite some time in a variety of domains, research and industry, and he's been developing them for a number of clients in finance and biomedical. Um, his company does a lot of cool work around that space too, developing knowledge graphs from scratch using Neo4j. So if you're interested in how this is reflected in a real life scenario, that would be a cool presentation to attend. After that, there is information architecture from data products to knowledge graph, and that's going to be presented by Andrea Gioia. And that guy, that guy has been doing this stuff for 20 years plus. He's co-founded two. Well, he's a partner at Quantica, the company he's currently at, and he's also a co-founder of another organization called Blind Data, both consultancies developing innovative solutions. There's a lot of people going to that one, and for a good reason. He's very popular. He breaks things down very, very well. After lunch, we have Map and Molecule building the enterprise holograph. That one is with Daniel Taylor, and Daniel Taylor is a veteran of the industry. He has over 20 years from being in the trenches to being a director of data, particularly in the spaces of marketing and AI and semantics. So his presentation is called Map and Molecule Building the Enterprise Holograph. I cannot recommend you guys to go to that one enough. It's going to be a good one. Then it's the keynote presentation by Jessica Talisman. Jessica Talisman is going to be presenting information architecture for art. No, sorry. No, that's not the one. Well, she's going to do the keynote and it's going to be fabulous. She's always great. She's always exposing these very expansive views of the world with cross disciplinary view of how it involves social technical decisions. um I made her the keynote for a reason. She's great. So be sure to attend that one if you're interested. Then it's going to be Prasad Yalamanchi, the need for ontologies to enable automated LLM workflows. This is a hot topic. um you know People have historically taken loads of time to develop ontologies from scratch. It is a exercise that requires a lot of back and forth and manual hands-on work. But what he's proposing with this presentation is using graph technologies, using ontologies, and working alongside LLMs to get the benefit of developing a scaffold for ontologies and then refining them over a period of time with the help of subject matter experts. However, the approach that he suggests is significantly faster than doing it manually. Um, After that, it's Kurt Cagle, and he's going to be talking about AI and ontologies as standards. I think he's going to take the perspective of a standard for federal government level? How do you enforce and work with ontologies as a standard that we can employ in industries? That's really his presentations are very insightful. He's been doing this for a very long time as well. And if you follow his report, his subscription, the Kaggle report, he's been writing on this stuff for the last 3 years, 4 years. Every day he's pumping out really interesting ideas around generative AI, ontology, data modeling, and things like that. And finally, it's going to be navigating the AI frontiers. It's all about perspective by Dr. Hala Nelson. Dr. Hala Nelson wrote a book on essential maths for AI, and she's a lovely presenter, very well spoken, very pragmatic in her approach in engaging with organizations as she consults with government, nonprofits, and for profit organizations. I recommend you go to that one if you want to gain her perspective through the lens of mathematics. Um, and with that, I'll leave you. We're going to get ready for the next one. Again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Bye.